Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And this particular article or story is coming straight out of Monroe County, New York, where a female DA thought that she was above the law and displayed some Karen attributes, thinking that she was better than the police officer that stopped her for speeding. Here we go. A DA was caught speeding. Her outburst earned her more than a ticket. Sandra Doorley, the district attorney of Monroe County, New York, refused to pull over and responded angrily to the officer who confronted her. Body camera footage showed. Now she faces calls to resign. It was 5:30 p.m. last Monday in Webster, New York, a Rochester suburb, when police officer Cameron Crisafulli noticed an SUV being driven 20 miles per hour over the speed limit on Phillips Road. Officer Crisafulli put on his lights and sirens, signaling to the driver to pull over, but the driver didn't stop, steering the car into a residential neighborhood about a half a mile up the road before pulling into the garage of a two-story white clapboard house. It was the home of a district attorney, Sandra Doorley, the Monroe County district attorney. She said, sorry, I'm the DA. I know I was going 55 coming home from work, Mrs. Doorley said angrily, getting out of her car as Officer Crisafulli approached her in the garage. He reminded her that the speed limit on Phillips Road was 35 miles an hour. She replied, I don't really care. Footage of the encounter, recorded on Officer Crisafulli's body camera and released Friday by the Webster Police Department, raised questions about whether Ms. Doorley had tried to use her office to avoid a traffic ticket. In the footage, Ms. Doorley, District Attorney Doorley, can be heard using explicitives, calling the officer vulgar names, and repeatedly escalating the situation. Another officer who arrived on the scene and identified himself as Officer Crisafulli's supervisor told District Attorney Doorley that by refusing to stop, she had broken another law and that it was an arrestable offense. District Attorney Doorley was not arrested. The release of the footage led to a swift backlash, and residents of Rochester and beyond called for District Attorney Doorley to face discipline. In a statement on Sunday, Governor Kathy Hochul said she had reported Mrs. Doorley to the State Commission on Prosecutorial Conduct. The body camera footage, Governor Hochul said, clearly showed District Attorney Doorley claiming she is above the law, attempting to use her public office to evade responsibility and acting unprofessionally towards a police officer that was simply trying to do his job. District Attorney Doorley had undermined her ability to hold others accountable for violating the law, the governor said. Save Rochester, a local advocacy group, has called for an investigation into Mrs. Doorley and started a petition asking for her to be removed from the office. At protests in Rochester on Monday, demonstrators from the group called for her to be disbarred. The group is active in the Black Lives Matter movement and called for change following the death of Daniel Prude, a 41-year-old black man who died in police custody in Rochester in 2020. District Attorney Doorley faced calls for her resignation after deciding not to charge the police officers who had arrested Mr. Prude. Activists with Save Rochester argued that the behavior of District Attorney Doorley, who is white, during the traffic stop exemplified white privilege. This is proof that white privilege reigns supreme in our country, and it's time for that to come to an end, the group wrote on a social media post. Sandra put countless people's lives in jeopardy, and she had the nerve to try to use her position to escape justice. Meanwhile, she prosecutes black people to the full extent of the law. While arguing with Officer Crisafulli after the traffic stop, the body camera footage showed Miss Doorley called the police chief on the phone and asked him to tell the officer to leave her alone. At one point during the call, District Attorney Doorley rolled her eyes and handed the phone to Officer Crisafulli, who explained the situation to the police chief, Dennis Kohlmeyer. She said, "Just go away," Miss Doorley later said as she walked into her house. DA, District Attorney Doorley, apologized for her behavior in a video released on Sunday night, days after the body camera footage was made public. "What I did was wrong, no excuses," she said. "I didn't treat this officer with the respect that he deserves." Both during her conversation with Officer Crisafulli and in her video, Ms. Doorley attributed her behavior to the stress of dealing with a recent spat of homicides in Rochester, where 3 murders occurred in less than 2 days this month. "We all have bad days and stress, and it was wrong for me to take it out on an officer who's simply doing his job," she said. In the video, Ms. Doorley added that she would pay the fine for the speeding ticket and would refer the episode to the district attorney from another county for review, though she did not specify which. Mrs. Doorley also said that she was reporting the case to a grievance committee and pledged to take ethics training. In her garage last week, Officer Crisafulli expressed confusion about the amount of hostility she was exhibiting towards him. He said, "I'm doing my job, ma'am. You say you're the DA." She said, "I am the DA," before getting her badge out of her handbag and showing it to him. She said, "If you give me a ticket, that's fine. I'm the one who prosecutes it." What a case. And luckily, with 2 things that are starting over the years to exonerate innocent people who have been falsely accused of crimes and have been let go free, has been the inundation of DNA over the last 30 years since the early 90s, DNA profiles and samples, and also body cam footage. These are 2 illustrations: the DNA, scientific DNA results and tests, and body cam footage. It either can exonerate an innocent person, or it can show the egregious and overexuberance and the personality and narcissistic temperament of police officers, lawyers, district attorneys who think they are above the law. If this officer did not have this on body cam footage, this entire incident, this young lady who's a district attorney probably could have gotten Crisafulli fired. And it has happened many times over many years. But thankful that there is body cam footage, even including camcorder footage when you go back to the Rodney King episode. Black men have been beaten on for years by egregious, racist white cops, black civilians, white police officers. It has happened a million times. But thankfully, many of these officers have gotten caught due to the result of technology today with body cam footage on police officers' uniforms. There was another incident where an undercover police officer was canvassing a protest here in St. Louis, and he had been a police officer for over 20 years, and 5 of his own police officers jumped on him, broke his jaw, kicked him, broke several bones, and he ended up getting a $23.5 million judgment against the city of St. Louis. Here again, that scenario was caught partially with body cam footage. And as a result, those 3 or 4 police officers got arrested, got in trouble, and 1 or 2 of them even got convicted and had to serve prison time. So we have to be very thankful for body cam footage, especially if you're doing the right thing and being accused of something that is wrong and you did not do it. Uh, there are bad apples in all professions. This district attorney who thought she was above the law was going 30 miles an hour over the speed limit. The police officer flashed his lights. She kept going on Phillips Road and then parked her car in her garage. If that happened to anybody else, that would have been an arrestable offense. Had that happened with a black male citizen, such as myself, with a white police officer, there would have been a barrage of officers at my house, and there would have been a high likelihood that I would have gotten my behind whooped and definitely sent to prison. None of those things happened to District Attorney Sandra Doorley. As a matter of fact, when Officer Crystal Foley realized that she was the DA, he dealt with her with perfect kid gloves. It is amazing how officers can either make a rush to judgment, definitely to people of color, and make a rush to negative judgment, but they will make a rush to positive judgment to white females, other white male citizens that look just like them. This was definitely an arrestable offense. She overstepped her boundaries by not stopping during a traffic stop for speeding, calling the police chief. She overstepped her boundaries in 3 or 4 levels. She even called the police officer an asshole in her garage. He never pulled his gun. He never tased her. He never pepper sprayed her. He dealt with her in the most professional, laid back, unaggressive approach that you can think of. But why don't more white police officers do that with other folks? Maybe we wouldn't have this dichotomy and this fear of our white police officers and badge holders versus the inner city community, because there isn't a a behavior of over aggressiveness, over egregiousness when it comes to middle class, low income citizens of color, for sure. That would have definitely been an arrestable defense and possibly a police beatdown. However, Sandra Doorley did not get that. She got treated with kid gloves, even after she called his police chief, berated him, and I don't think she would have apologized had it not been caught on camera footage. I think her response was fake and not meaningful. I think that the true essence of who her personality and who she is was the way she reacted when that officer met her in her garage. She thinks she's above the law. There's a certain level of white privilege and a Karen personality in this young lady. And if she does that with a police officer who's on the same side of the fence that she is supposed to be, as far as providing proper law enforcement, following the standards and the rules and the obligations and the laws, if she is treating a fellow comrade, a police officer, and berating him and making assumptions and accusations that were false, what do you think she's doing when she's prosecuting individuals for minor, minimum, medium, and major crimes? This woman has complete tunnel vision. I think that they have to go back and review some of her cases. I think that she has arrogance about her where she wants to have an overpreponderance of guilt for most people that enter into her vein or her web as far as being tried in her DA's office. She does not seem like a person who's very objective. She seems like a person who would be very subjective. She seems like an individual who would definitely have the presumption of a lily white suburban mentality. And if people of color, poor folks, are going through that court system and she's the district prosecuting attorney, I think that she was probably trying to nail, put the nails in the coffin of many of the tax-paying citizens that unfortunately get caught up in the court system. And I don't think that she doesn't seem to be a very flexible person or a second or third chance kind of prosecutor to be a little bit lenient for folks. If she's talking this abruptly and angrily to a police officer, what do you think she's doing to individuals who go through her system to be prosecuted? She's looking in one direction: conviction, conviction, conviction. And that sheds a positive light on her. It feels her narcissism and her personality, and she could care less what happens to the person that she just got convicted. And she probably is a prosecutor who stretches and bends the laws and the truth in order to get a conviction. I think there's many personality traits that are being displayed after this stop. She had the arrogance to drive 30 miles over the speed limit on Phillips Road. She had the arrogance and exuberance not to stop when the police officer was right behind her, flashing his lights. She never pulled over. So there's a public safety issue that's involved there. Then she commenced to driving into a suburb and then driving into her house and her garage while that police officer does not know if she's going to get out and start shooting them or anything. She took her position as a representative of the court way, way too far, and never thought for 1 minute that her life would be in danger, let alone the police officers. When she gets out of the car, she continues to berate him like he's some kind of kid or like he works for her. And how crazy could it be for you to pull me over? It makes not an ounce of sense. We need to get rid of these kind of egregious oligarchy, personality type, narcissistic individuals in our court system, whether they're judges, police officers, district attorneys, and we need to have a fair system that's based on equity and equality, no matter what race, creed, or color that you are. Thank God for social media. Thank God for body cam footage. Thank God for DNA testing. You know how many people have been exonerated and gotten out of life sentences for crimes they did not commit. Technology does have a place in order to weigh the balance of an imperfect society. And I do believe that this young lady, if these allegations are true for District Attorney Sandra Doorley out of Monroe County, New York, she probably should resign as being the lead DA with a Karen type personality and an arrogance and a narcissism where she thinks she's above the law. Bending the rules is probably not a problem with her, and you will be sending innocent individuals to prison, getting them felony convictions, changing their entire narrative of their life based on her arrogance. I think she should be removed. Tell me what you think about this story. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest Your Truth right here on YouTube. And Sandra Doorley, the DA out of Monroe County, New York. After this incident, even though it was minor, it could have turned into something major. And I think this is a clear example that she needs to be removed from the lead district attorney and representing the people of Monroe County. I think that there could be some scenarios where her arrogance could filter over into the court system and innocent people could go to jail as a result of her narrow-mindedness, her Karen personality, and her arrogance about thinking that she's above the law. That will filter into other areas of her life, and it could have detrimental effects on innocent people that end up in her web as the district attorney. Tell me what you think. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest Your Truth.